Thanks for calling the meeting of the Ramsey County Commission to order. Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to thank everybody for coming this morning. Hope everybody had a great 4th of July Independence Day holiday. We'll get ready. Two things, approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Bills. Full list of bills in everybody's packets. We have a couple additional that Candy had just distributed, Reentry Center and Law Enforcement Center. $115,408.08 for the Law Enforcement Center. Reentry was $7,055.
There's some on the highway list,
And there's some on the highway list.
three motions later. I'll make a motion to approve the bill.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second, roll call please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightpon,
Aye.
Britt.
Aye. Bills are paid, financials. Anybody had an opportunity to look at the financials?
We have a letter of transfer to approve later for the Law Enforcement Center.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're good.
Anybody have any questions on the financials, any additions or corrections?
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve the financials, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the financials, roll call please.
Volk,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightpon,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Britt.
Aye. Financials approved, treasurer's checks.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the treasurer's checks. Roll call.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightpon,
Aye.
Britt.
Aye. Any additions or corrections to the agenda for today?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented, and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. You want to stick by the times, or are we good to keep on rolling?
If they're here, we can.
All right. First up on the agenda this morning is Lisa Deeseth, treasurer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess everything is about the same if you look at the treasures. We did the increase that was for wages that came from Candy, the whole grant. The only thing that went up was technology, and that bill is coming from our IT person, Steve. So that's the only thing that went up. Any questions?
Looks really good.
And then I have the superintendent of schools. And that is about the same. And I haven't heard of any school closing, so we'll just play it by ear.
Did Mr. Moe explain what the increase in technology was for?
I am not sure. Candy, can you help me with that? Do we know what the increase was? I mean, he kind of just breaks it down, so everybody, how many computers we have,
Right.
he manages them, and that's what he,
Some of the cost is having like that VPN,
I was gonna say,
the offsite.
On
The offsite.
on the last page of the auditor's budget here, he has a breakdown, so it's amount of computers tied to $768, and then you have to pay for remote access.
right,
So it's essentially covering what the VPN would be plus the, all the management packages that go with each computer.
You were up $200, is that what it is, Lisa?
yes. I rounded it off, but it was like give or take $5 or $10, so I just rounded it off.
That's not as much as the gas cost that went up, is it?
No. I like, he can probably explain more too, of what's
Yeah.
going on.
Well, I mean,
You know,
that's
but
just
like
not
with
doing
me,
business.
I have an additional charge for like Adobe Pro,
Yeah.
so there's a few different, you know.
I wonder why something that's spread over all the departments isn't put in the IT budget itself.
it would be easier,
And then whatever specialized software a department would need would come out of that department's budget,
right?
but. Oh well, I guess it all comes out of general anyway, so. Any questions for Lisa?
I think it looks good.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
Lisa.
Thanks, have a good day.
Beverly Buckmeyer, Recorder's Office. Good morning.
Good morning. The only change I can see is, I kind of went off what Katie had last year for the budget. Our Endrin account will probably be around 25,000 instead of 30,000. Just kind of estimating of what should be coming in probably about 2 months and then in January again. Other than that, same as Lisa, the technology thing is the only thing that really changed in the wages.
Any questions for Bev? Any questions of us, Bev?
Not that I can think of, I can kind of let you know what I plan on doing this in 2022. We're in the process of validating our documents from 1979 to current. With being as busy as we have been this past 6 months, it's been very difficult to get much done on that. We do have our recertification of our passport agents. We're waiting to hear from Minneapolis if they're actually going to hold them physically or if we're going to have to do it online again. We have been recertified for our facility online. We're looking at trying to get somebody in here to do it physically so that someone from Minneapolis comes and stays in our office for a day watching to see how we handle the passport situations. One of the projects I was also looking at is, since our mortgages are now in our system, they're just scanned in the images, looking at possibly talking to some companies or individuals about indexing our documents from 1979 back to 1882. That's a big project. It might incur some expense, but that would be Endrin money that we would use. I'm trying to keep a balance of that, not spend all the money, but still try to get back. We have had research companies come in.
Everything on digits then, right?
Yes. Now, the images are there, but there's nothing in our software they can't, it's difficult for us to search and them to search, so. Hoping to get that done, well, that's gonna be years to get that done, because it's like 170,000 documents. And hoping to maybe get some of that started.
Be pretty cool once it's done though.
It would be.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions for Bev? Budget looks good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Beth,
Good morning.
good morning.
My only changes were also wages and IT as presented to me. Other than that, everything is about the same.
Any questions for Beth?
Beth, you probably told me about this before, but between 2020 and 2021, on your service contracts line item, why did that go from 60,000 to 10?
That was the commercial revaluation.
Oh, okay, sure, and so we were done with it.
Yeah.
Got it, makes perfect sense. It's just not often you see budgets.
Right,
going
yeah.
that direction.
Not that much.
Yeah.
Anything else for Beth? Beth, anything else for us?
No.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Mr. Jager, Emergency Management.
Okay, under the emergency management budget, changes are of course the salary. The technology, but another change I put in was the emergency operations center. Just to give you guys a heads up, we're looking, I've been talking with Stone's Mobile Radio, we're looking at replacing a radio head or a head unit. So I put a little bit more money into there, hoping that will at least get the operations center back to what we should do, or should be at, and then they're gonna work some telephone lines around that. If you want, we can go on to the hazardous chemical, there's a bigger changes on that one. Hazardous, what's that?
Go ahead.
Okay, hazardous chemical, the biggest change was training. There's a few trainings I'd like to go to. Of course, they come, with a little bit of money. If you look back at 2019, some of that, budget was quite high, or actual money spent was used. So that's the big change for that one. And then risk management, just the salary aspect, that was it.
What page is risk management on?
Which page?
It's not-
Oh,
I don't know if we have the risk management yet. Or
Yeah. Let's see there.
it's in there,
I just didn't label it. 14.
page 14.
Does anyone remember, did we say 2% in the step was what we were recommending tonight? 3% in the step?
There we go. Yes.
Anybody have any questions for Chris regarding the budget that he has submitted?
So, just out of curiosity, make sure I'm doing my math right. Does 3% in the step equal 14%?
Probably not.
Because by my math, the salary line item for 2022 is 14% higher than 2021.
I put, some negotiations on income on there, I figured I was gonna be at a different hearing. Just to make sure that,
What did you put on it?
This is with the staff.
is that grand total, I don't know if that was,
Well, I'm just looking at this number here that's off on the right
Oh,
side, where
sure.
you've got all these other numbers, it's 60,816.
that was,
If you divide that by 53,000, that's 14% more.
I just put in some negotiations of where I wanted to start, and that number, I don't wanna get too deep into detail today, but I just wanted to make sure there was some budgetary items, or the money was there to at least ask for something better.
So you're telling me then if you get 53,000 approximately this year and you asking for 60 for next year, is that what you're telling me?
That's where I'd like, when I first started, that's where I tried starting at.
First start of the job, you mean?
Yes, sir. And it was supposed to be under review after 6 months, and it never worked out. That was something I talked with Crystal about, and
Talk to who?
Crystal, when she was here,
Okay.
and it never came full circle to get kind of closer to where I wanted to start at. And
To my knowledge, this is totally news to me, I know that. But I don't know about the rest of the commission.
Well, I know Chris had talked to me about his salary and the increases that he'd like to see. And look, I think I had mentioned, go ahead, put it in, we can negotiate as we move through. I think Chris has done an exceptional job throughout this past pandemic, and gone through an awful lot of additional training requirements that have gone along with that. And whether or not we can afford or justify that raise, yet to be seen. As everybody knows, this is a preliminary budget. So, and that I think there are changes to be made in the HR stuff about raises are not a guarantee, but based upon performance evaluation, so. That's something that,
I'm not necessarily trying to stir the pot, I was just curious to know, you know, everybody else was doing their 3% in the step, and wanted to know why there was a discrepancy is all.
that would be it. And that's something that maybe Brian can delve into when, I know he's jumped in with both feet and then some. And maybe reevaluate some of our salaries and make sure that we are within line with the market. I think that's something the city of Devils Lake just did, found out that some of their people were being overpaid and some of them were grossly underpaid, and I think they're gonna make some adjustments accordingly. But whether or not we would fall in those lines, I'm not sure, but it's certainly possible. I think that's something that Crystal was gonna work on. Our previous HR individual. But, probably been a while since we've taken a look at that. Gotta protect our most important asset, and that's our employees, so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
can I mention one more thing about that step and grade? After 25 steps, from 20 to 25, I think you get a 0.5% increase. After 25 steps, you don't get any increase. That's kind of unfair. I think there's only like 4, maybe 5 employees that.
Hey, you topped out at the.
And the problem is now I have a 28-step person and a 24-step person. And the way it works out, now the 24-step person is gonna be making more money than the 28-step person because they stepped out earlier.
Sure.
So just something to look at.
Yeah.
But the 28-step guy's still gonna give the living cost rate.
Right, correct. But as it works out, the 24 went ahead of the 28 because they stepped out.
And the reason that happened is because all the, like, state employees now, they went on this, when they do evaluations, it was supposed to be based off your evaluations and not the step, and that's where all that got messed up across the state. So we're seeing that a lot with the state employees. And the fix to it, I don't know. Because you are seeing a new employee coming in and passing some people that are already on step 10. Because the steps went up, but once they got to here, it didn't go up.
Well, and just so that I understand, I was always under the assumption that the step was the performance-based raise. Is that not correct? The cost of living everybody would get, but that theoretically the step is the performance pay increase.
Well, a lot of the steps go by time. So if you get 5, let's say you got 5 years, and you automatically go to the next step, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a lot of it, how it went.
The step does go by time, but it's up to the department head to make sure they get that step.
They can still deny it.
Yeah, positive review.
Correct.
Right. So
That's the performance-based increase. Yeah.
Right, he's saying, once you get to step 25,
Yeah.
there's no more steps.
Well, we used to have, what, 20, I believe, at one point in time? And we stretched it to 25. And I think it would be reasonable to look at seeing if we could either stretch it or come up with some type of situation where we make sure that people that are at the top of the step system don't go backwards, obviously. We don't want that.
Well, it's not that they're going backward.
Well, they're just, yeah, but they're just capped out at the percent. I mean, and that's not the intent of the system. Or at least I don't think that's our intent, so it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to make it work fairly more than anything.
But most jobs are capped out, and then it's just the living cost raise. But what he's saying is they're getting the living cost and they're getting the steps, so it's capturing them quicker, higher.
Yeah.
Just something to look at.
Do we have a scenario where the base starting wage has been raised over the years, where this employee that's still getting step increase, they may be started at a higher increase than an employee that's over 25 years, so it just, things will never line up unless you make adjustments with your long-term employees also.
The thing is, the adjustments are hard to make, because if you look at how the steps work and how the increases are, if you would do that, some of the employees would jump to $150,000. Right. And there's no way that we can ever budget that. Just the way the math works out.
I think that's the importance of the market study every so often.
Right.
So that's something we can take a look at as we move through the budget process. But for today, I want to thank Chris for bringing in this budget. We also have under Chris, drought discussion. I think despite what we're receiving for precipitation today, I think we'd still be categorized in a severe drought situation, and whether or not a local county emergency drought declaration would be prudent. I see some other counties around us have taken that step, and I asked Chris to look into it, and the benefits of doing so would be,
Would just be opening up the local emergency money, so if you want to spend our local emergency money before the state fund would kick, would be the only difference. Since it's a state declared, we don't have to file, so we're already covered under the state. It's just if we want to spend our local emergency money first. And because it would be coming from the ag department, it kind of doesn't completely fit, completely.
right, so, but I asked Chris to check into that and thought we could bring it up for a discussion point anyway, since Chris was gonna be here and that our ongoing drought continues. If that's any action that the commission would like to take, we could certainly have Chris draw up any emergency drought declaration for the Ramsey County and get that approved, but I'm not sure if there's exactly any benefits. I think, as Chris indicated, we're both under a state and a federal drought declaration. That's been since early April.
Can I ask a quick question? When the state declares a emergency for drought, so does that unlock FEMA dollars then?
That's what they're trying for.
They're trying for, okay. There's nothing that has been there yet.
What other counties have made the declaration?
I think Nelson County was the last one that I remembered. I don't know exactly how many counties have actually went with it though. If you give me a few minutes here, I can take a quick look.
I think it's on that ND response page,
So I was gonna
correct?
pull it
Yeah.
up.
So,
Maybe it would make sense to do it.
No, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, it's just, you know, what are we gaining from,
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, just being able to spend our local dollars, but I mean,
So once in a while that opens up fund money for NRCS or something like that too.
I think it's worth diving into a little bit more to see if there's any benefit.
Absolutely.
It doesn't hurt to do it. Yeah, or risk, yeah. By declaring it doesn't mean we have to spend our money first versus the states and federal money. Something like that. Never hurts to know the cost of the benefit.
would you like Chris to draw something up for us, or?
Yeah, we should have to do that, I think.
I think it's.
I don't know, it won't hurt nothing, we've got a piece of paper probably, you know.
I'll do it.
See what happens. There's a hell of a lot of drought damage.
Well,
Either receiving and with a better attitude of people, I think, but I don't know how much gonna do yet.
A lot of the damage is kind of already done. to be honest.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I'll draw that up for you guys.
thank you.
But
Anything else, Chris? Anything else from the commissioners for Chris? Thank you.
thanks.
Moving on, Mr. Moe. Steve, IT, GIS.
Yes. Okay, yes, the budgets are same as last year, except the recommended increase in salary. The one item that, I guess, our server is approaching 5 years old now, which is usually replacement age when you start thinking about replacing it, but it's working well. So I've just extended the warranty another year, so I guess next year we'll probably be looking at adding that to the budget again for replacement. But
What kind of money is we looking for that?
it was around 10,000 for the physical machine, and maybe twice that now, I guess, to get everything transferred. But I guess that's a year and a half away to think about. And
Steve, we see a lot in the headlines with cybersecurity threats. How confident are you in the security in the, for the county's IT stuff?
fairly confident. It's, I guess, there's always a risk. I wouldn't say anything's 100%. The stuff that we've done in the last year, I guess, year and a half, 2 years, but moving everyone to the States, more secure email and onto their office plan, and being on the state network and with their virus protection, I think we're getting more and more secure.
Let me ask you this question, Steve, is there anything that we should do ourselves, do you think? I mean, you're the knowledgeable one, so,
Yeah, well,
no matter what it costs.
the thing would be to go backwards, unplug everything from the internet and just have one person sit at the
I'll make that
console.
Costs, I mean, the costs are getting just laughable. I mean, everything. I mean,
Well, but the costs of the ransomware that they'll put on too are
oh, I know, yeah, they're
Or
crazy.
you go buy some Dogecoin or some Bitcoin or something, and
Well, they're
get
after
your information back.
the county government, you're not very far away from it, Minnesota, where you, like that on them and, get money out of it.
Steve, is there, do you think there's any risk of the tenants that are in our building that are on separate networks, cross-contamination kind of thing? You know, because there are several tenants within our building that are not on the county system. Is there any potential risk there, do you think?
I could see some, but that's mainly physical security, but I guess where
Sure.
somebody leaves their desk and somebody else walks in, or but there, I won't say never to any situation, I guess.
No.
Are we doing cloud-based backup right now? For the server?
Not directly, I guess it's.
I remember talking about it at one point in time, but I remember the costs were pretty.
definitely start doing backups. Would it be possible to own another server that's only occasionally connected? So in other words, like you connect it once a month to take a backup of everything that exists, and then you unplug it, so that at most you're only losing, say, a month's worth of all the county's information, which is a lot, but it's not as bad as.
Yeah, they steal it, and you're like, okay, here you go, we got our own.
Yeah, that's what we're currently doing. We've got, I take several hard drives, I do a backup every week, every Friday night, to then take
So
that.
you do a
And then I
backup
take
of
that
everything.
one home, so in case the courthouse would burn down.
Okay.
We have it physically backed up, so if somebody came after us with a ransomware attack, we would never be more than a week out then, basically, hypothetically.
Hopefully, yeah. It's just one of those things where, yeah, now you hear the ransomware where they hang out for a few months and then
Make
all of
sure
a
you
sudden,
can't do that, yeah.
Your backups might be,
No,
if they're,
is there altering stuff inside?
Other counties doing that too?
yeah, then it's all, most I would imagine are doing similar things. And yeah, we've got other backup devices that are taking more frequent backups every few hours and saving things longer. So, yeah, I think there's plenty of backups. I guess could always be more. You can always find situations where,
Well, and, additional physical backups and cloud backups and stuff are okay too, but even when it's in the cloud, there has to be a server someplace backing something up. I know we got into that issue, not ransomware or anything like that, but when the power grid went down in Texas, with the county housing authority, all of our backup from us physically went to servers in Texas and also servers on the East Coast somewhere for double backup, and they lost power in both places. So we were down for 2 days or 3 days because they physically didn't have power there. So it's you try your best, like you said. You try your best to make it as manageable as you can, I guess. And hopefully nobody comes and locks our computers up.
and yeah, I am having a meeting with the state security consultants today, that since we're on their email and office plan, should allow us to have some more specialized training, specific training that, since all of the state users are using it, they can allow us to run the same training.
Well, it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal, so appreciate you staying on top of it. I think some of those numbers that ITD presented on that Trojan horses or the ransomwares or and the potential cyber attacks that they have, that they interrupt on a daily basis at the state level is just mind-blowing. How many times people are trying to access from outside networks, and yeah, so certainly a big concern with all that goes on and the number of computers that we have in and out of here, so thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions for Steve? Anything further for us, Steve?
No, I guess just if the increase in the technology for all the other departments, that was just an increase from the states, their Microsoft plan, everyone else, if everyone needs the VPN, like I guess we needed the last year, that type of thing.
Cost of doing business, huh?
Yeah.
Do you find that beneficial to put that on the department's budgets, or is that something that should be out of the IT budget?
I see it both ways, I guess. Previously, all of the departments, this is just because it moved to a subscription-based plan instead of a one-time purchase, which all the departments used to do. You just pay $400 for Microsoft Office when you buy your computer, and now it's $22 a month for forever, I guess. And I guess it was an opportunity, I guess, for every department to know their costs and not have to involve me if they were thinking of hiring a new person or they didn't need, or the plan down the road where if I want this extra piece, that rather than halfway through the years asking me, and then if I don't have the money, what should I say?
Well, I guess the way I see it, it's kind of pick and mids either way, right? It's, all the money's coming from the same place.
We're paying for it somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Crosby,
Yes, sir.
Veteran service, how are you this morning? Good. Thank you for coming in. Page 33 in the budget book is the VSO budget for 2022. You see the county breakdowns. We share Bryce with Benson and Nelson counties. Benson paying 22%, Nelson 18%. That is an office that is quite busy.
Yeah, every time I come in, I see you're in with somebody, it's a lot of work. Out of curiosity, when was the last time we updated these percentages? Was that recently?
When we set up the
Not a long time.
split, I thought, but did you do it since then?
No, the percentages changed.
Did we update them again? Because we wanted them to update pretty regularly, if I remember the way we set it up.
For the
A
county.
couple of years.
Yeah.
Like when we started.
Because it was just the number of veterans.
Possibly capture
Would
those.
have been when Bryce started that
Okay,
change.
that's good.
Okay, that's good to know. Just curious.
That's gonna make sure we're paying for a fair share.
If she gave you the budget I was looking at, I had a substantial increase in the salary on there, but I can lose the insurance, which would give the county several $1,000s, you know, in funds back. And what I'm trying to do is get my own salary more commensurate with what the other counties are doing. If I look at the counties that are both above me and below me in veteran populations, not only is their salary substantially higher, but they have like 2 personnel in their VSO office. And I don't really need the insurance. I'm actually tripled up with both a TRICARE, VA, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield would be my 3rd insurance.
So the correct budget that we're looking at is not the one on 33, it's the one on the page behind 33?
The one, well, I put in 2 because I wasn't sure.
Which way we would want it?
Yes.
I appreciate that.
So,
So basically, this second one, where we're going from 45 to 57, you're justifying based on
yeah,
getting
based
rid of
on,
the cost of insurance?
well, yeah, the cost of insurance, yes, you would get back under, if you look at the fixed charges, it would drop again too, so the total amount for the veteran service would be a savings for the county for $12,000.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't mean to blackmail the county with my insurance, but again, you know, I think when I look at the wages that I get every year from Lonnie Wangan from the North Dakota Veterans Affairs, and I can see what my peers are making, you know, I also don't want to be taken advantage of either.
Sure.
So, and I did have an increase of $183,000 in compensation payments within the last year to Ramsey County. So,
Yeah, no one doubts that you're doing the work that you're doing, but.
What paper are we looking at?
See this, so, okay, so here, this proposal
Yeah, I got that, but
is,
which one do you want?
33B.
We're on 57.6 then, okay?
Yes.
Looks like it's the question. You don't want no insurance.
no, I don't need it.
What would that save us, Andy? Approximately.
what it says on here.
$12,000, right?
Yeah, that's right here under fixed charges. See how it's going down,
But
but
sure, the cost is about 22 grand, stuff like that for policy. Excuse me.
I would suggest we take it under consideration.
Yeah.
Looking at $11,000 for for salary, but you're also saving 12,000 on the other side.
I can give you the data too from the NDVA too, to show you what. the
That'd be
other counties
helpful.
are.
I think it'd be good to have it for justification.
The one question I have,
Yeah.
relationship with the other two counties is going well?
Yes, yeah.
You've met with their commissions sometime
I met with Benson County, I haven't met with Nelson County yet. So,
for the whole year you haven't met?
no.
I would schedule a meeting.
Yeah.
You know, get them familiar with you. I mean, they have a interest in this,
Yes, yeah.
so. Benson you've met with,
Oh, yes, yeah.
Just so they know where you're standing also.
absolutely.
That's
I
great.
think as a commission, we're very interested in keeping this agreement with the other counties in place.
Yeah, during the budget thing last year, that's why I missed it, because then Benson County had asked me first, and so I'd scheduled with them. So, because all the county commissions meet at the same time.
8 o'clock Monday morning. Everyone in North Dakota.
You can't be in three places at once, Bryce? Come on.
Today's technology.
Yeah, we could
There's
we
other
could
times.
zoom, yeah, we could all be together.
Well, just keep a good working relationship with them, I think is key. And we work with them on other projects within the counties too, so, you know, law enforcement.
Yep.
Anything else for Bryce this morning? Bryce, anything else for us?
No, sir, no.
All right, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Mr. Singer.
Yes, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity, by the way. Do our best, I guess, so.
I'm not sure if you've met all the commissioners yet. Have you had the opportunity?
Not personally, but
Yeah, so Brian is the new HR coordinator here in the county, hired and started working mid-June, I think, about a month ago maybe.
9th, I think it was the start of the week.
Yeah, so, and he's, like I said before, he's hit the ground running and he's made a very good impression with people that he's dealing with, so. And we'll go through his budget, and then I think he has some other things on the agenda as well.
Sure, so Candy, appreciate it, she helped me with the budget, it was my first one, just a couple weeks in, so. Really, pretty much just copied, you know, what was off of last year, pay increase, IT increase. We did a little increase in miscellaneous and employee training, I kind of foreseed myself. I'm trying to wrap my head around the county, the government part of all this HR stuff, so I've been soaking up a lot of webinars recently too, and just talking to everybody, just trying to get a feel for that, so I'm at a increase in the training, foreseeing a little bit more than maybe it's been done in the last couple of years, so. That's my budget. Candy can add anything, she, like I said, she kind of helped me set this up. It's a pretty simple budget, I guess, in the office.
Feel like you're hitting the ground running?
Yeah, we've had a couple of little tiny fires we've already had to put out, so got to know Bo on my first day, so. But he was great to work with, so we're, we've been, after that, it's been just learning the building, the people, the makeup of, you know, the social services, and, you know, not everybody in the building's county employee, so to speak, you know, it's just trying to wrap your head around all that stuff. So. But so far, so good. It's been good.
Good.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Any questions about Brian's budget? Or-
It's good to me.
Okay. We also have Brian here to discuss some changes in the employee handbook, some policy changes that he's been recommended.
Not really policy changes, it's kind of some language changes, just cleaned a couple things up that I'd like to clean up. I'm not sure what order you have in front of you, but the one titled work schedules, it was just kind of, it wasn't clear that it was a full 7 24-hour periods for the work week, so we just wanted to clean up some of the language there. It seems to look a lot better. That one looks good. And then vacation benefits, there was some confusion with employees and even I think a couple supervisors when that increase would happen for the vacation hours per month. And I think we've had some employees get that increase at the beginning of their 5-year or at their 5-year anniversary, not the completion of their 5-year anniversary, so they were essentially getting it a year earlier. So there was a statement in a paragraph above the graph or above the schedule, but what I just wanted to do is just add some verbiage into the actual schedule of the graph. That's the completion of year 5 going forward. And then we just want to bold out that specific sentence too right above it. Again, I'm not sure you guys got those proposed changes in front of you, so kind of shows that. And then you guys were talking about the step structure a little earlier, and I just wanted to add a little, and actually this was a suggestion from Bo, just to go ahead and wanted to add a little description of what a step structure is. I'll be honest, I've been in HR for a while. I didn't even know what it was when I started, but it makes sense once you see it. So, so I just wanted to add that you know, we do base our performance evaluations and our wage increase on a budget, but we use that step structure to set your salaries going forward. So it is my understanding that from Candy that we have used the step structure as a tool to, you know, get better performance out of employees. You know, if they're due a 3%, that, you know, if you're not a top employee, maybe you would receive 2%. Or I've been under the understanding that maybe it had been held for a small amount of time until that employee completed their corrective performance improvement plan, and then maybe you've gotten their step structure maybe a little bit later in the year too. So, and then there was a spot in our employee manual that actually says step structure, but there's no description to it about starting salaries. So I just added a really simple, I guess, definition of the step structure in there. So if anybody has any questions on that. Like I said, not really policy changes, just kind of some cleanup of some words.
Some verbiage.
Yeah.
The only question I had, excuse me, when looking at it was on the 7/24 period workday, and then you changed the stopping time and the starting time, correct?
Right.
The only thing I had a question on, and maybe I'm not knowing exactly what I'm talking about, but I remember at one point in time we talked about the sheriff's department needing to have certain times for when they had clock in, clock out stuff, or to count a week. Am I remembering something completely different that we had a discussion about?
I remember that.
I just started curious. For some reason, that previously we had a discussion with the sheriff about, or I remember having this discussion about HR about when the week had to start versus stop, for how they counted the hours, because they are on a different clock thing or something like that. There's 186 hours or something like that for a month, or I can't remember what it was, but it came to my mind when I was reading it. As long as it's okay to judge with that, it's fine. I mean, I think all the changes look good, so.
We can check with.
I just wanted to make sure it didn't screw up something where he was timekeeping or something like that.
He's got to have a variance there.
Yeah, it had something to do with the amount of hours allowed and how they clocked hours for weeks and things like that. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what because they have a certain specific, can't remember, there's a name for it, but I can't remember what the name is off the top of my head.
Remember we talked about it,
It might not have been in a commission meeting, it might have been in some other venue, I don't remember, but.
Mr. Chair, is it all right if the department heads review those before you approve them?
Yep, absolutely. So, we'll distribute these proposed changes to the department heads to review, bring them back at our, what do we meet, the 15th? 20th. 20th, yeah. So we'll review them and approve them on the 20th.
but just as long as the department heads clear them and everything's okay.
I can forward those on.
Otherwise, I think your budget looks good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did we, wanna jump down to the portion under new business with, since Brian's here, about the joint powers agreement with District Health on HR? The one thing I did notice in there that, it's based upon the old hours of the previous HR individual that, shall perform 16 hours of service for Ramsey County and 2 to 3 hours of service for District Health. I think your hours are different, so that may want to change that. Yeah. And I think,
Under number one, it should be
it should be full-time instead of part-time.
Then we have to specify hours, amount of hours worked for the county. I mean, can't we just say that the individual's a full-time employee of the county and will be contracted to District Health for 2 to 3 hours per week as needed?
I think so. I think that simplifies things.
Yes.
Or just shall perform services for us.
Yeah.
Put the hours on the social service needs it, right? Under this agreement also, or what?
I think we should have a separate agreement
Yeah,
with
each
Should
one,
be a separate one.
because that way if one of them broke, they don't both break.
Yeah.
Well, that on top of the fact that I think that an agreement with social services would be separate simply because they are county employees versus District Health and our employees, right? So they're kind of quasi, since there is a separate subdivision. But I do agree with you though, I think it's reasonable to ask social services if we should have some type of an agreement just because we are seeing if the state would do some type of a functional payment for it.
Just so they'll, well, just so they come back and say, well, what was the breakup?
And another thing, we're gonna be dealing with other counties, so we wanna make sure we have something in place that, you know, they understand, we understand. I don't believe states in it.
No, I think we're probably working up a tree that we're not gonna get anything out of it. Wouldn't that be nice?
Should
Oh,
we,
Or would you rather have him keep track of where,
Well, I think it's good to keep track of where the hours are going regardless, obviously, but I mean, I think in specifics for this agreement, I mean, I think that was from public health, they were putting in the 2 to 3 hours just so they knew, you know, this is kind of what we're expecting, or an expectation.
So we're going to approve this with the amendments?
Yep.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
we have a motion?
we don't need to change anymore.
I don't think so.
Well, I would say too, I'll second the motion, as well as just double checking, making sure that District Health is okay with it, and making sure that Bo doesn't have any, issues with it. This time the state's attorney runs that over at District Health, and if they're both okay, then it's not enough.
Okay.
If that's okay with the maker of the motion.
Well, yeah, I mean presumably District Health will have to be okay with it if they sign it or not, right?
Yeah.
So-
Right.
And I
This
just
is-
made, I
this
did
is what
make
we're
him
giving.
aware that we needed to redo because of the
Yes,
new position.
yes.
Through social service, that's the same way, you know, this is what you get for this.
Yep.
If they want to hire them, they can, the other counties.
All right. We have a motion to approve the joint powers agreement between Ramsey County and Lake Region District Health HR services with the changes indicated upon a review and approval from state's attorney and from Lake Region District Health Board of Directors. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Say I forgot to say one thing about my budget. Just to let you guys know that half my budget is covered by the state. The state pays half. I just wanna make sure that you're aware of that.
That's a good thing.
Thank God.
So,
I'm all for it, it's like,
so,
okay, well, that's what it is.
next up, we had the, Lake Region Public Library, and their budget, and
Yeah, he backed out.
you backed out,
Yep, sorry,
okay,
I forgot to take that out.
yep,
Next agenda.
next agenda,
Yeah.
Okay.
so.
It's in our budget, so we can look at it.
Yeah,
It's in our budget.
yeah, it's in there, so.
See, we're running ahead of schedule. We had Sheriff Nelson on at 9:30. And we'll jump up to Mr. Fieldson and the highway department's
All right,
report.
I'll start out with a little of the projects we got going on now, the paver patches. I don't remember if I explained this at the last meeting, but where we put the culvert in on 8th, that got fixed, and then by, in Brockett, Wagner, Miller Hardware, there's a spot there we fixed. We haven't done the ones on 3 yet, but they're gonna come back and do them. I might have explained that before, I can't remember. And our chip seal project, that is complete now. We don't have the stripes painted yet, but I did contact the paint outfit and they're gonna work into their schedule. And I did not get the invoice for that project yet, so. And the graveling on Turnback 17, that was completed yesterday. So that's all done. And no invoice there yet either. So any questions on the projects that we're doing? We're gonna start tearing out bridges this week. We're getting our rental equipment today, and we'll be starting this week. Ourselves.
Can you remind us again of where that chip seal project was?
It was from Hamden south to 17. And we did a little piece for Hamden in town. And then we'll bill them for what we did for them, but it was just a little bit wider on the shoulders and in the main line. And also Ramsey 9 from 4 all the way to the county line. I think there's 10 miles there. And the sign, some of the signs are down now, but the no center site signs are still up. So as soon as we get it striped, then we take those down. Any other questions on projects we got going?
Making progress.
Yeah. Okay, for our motions, the first one, we got the final invoice for the thin lift overlay on Ramsey County 2 and Elks Drive from the state for our share of the match money. And their total for the for all the thin lift project is $33,522.71. And that's gonna be the final payment now. And also, along with that, there's a sheet that goes with that project that we have to explain where we got our match money from. In other words, we didn't get it from another federal pot of money, so there has to be a signature for the chairman and the auditor to sign that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and approved to approve the invoice, so we're paying that, correct?
That's correct.
And that the chairman auditor signed the letter stating that where we got our matching money from. Since we're paying that, you want a roll call, Candy?
Yes, please. Volk,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Britt.
Aye.
second one, we got the culverts, to replace the 2 rusted out culverts in Sullivan Township, in sections 21, 22. They were 5-footers, big ones. They were put in probably 25 years ago, so it must be some hot soil there, but they rusted out. And the cost of those 2 culverts is $12,797. So we need a motion to pay for that. So,
Second. We have a motion, we have a second to replace the culverts in Sullivan Township. $12,797. Roll call, please.
Sorry. Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
okay, moving down, Ironhide has a gave us an invoice for rental of the skid steer when we fixed our soft spots for 3 weeks. They actually gave us a deal and gave us a monthly charge instead of a 3-week charge. So the invoice for that was $3,264 even.
Move the approve.
Second.
Moved and approved to pay the Ironhide rental for the skid steer. Roll call, please.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
Okay, next we got the second rental tractor from Leading Edge, and the cost for the entire rental period is $4,977.50, same as the first one. This is our second one.
Who paying that?
Yes, please.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the rental tractor payment to Leading Edge. Roll call.
Volk,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfon, Brett.
Aye.
We also got the bill for the Magwater, the dust suppressant that we put on all the county roads, and that invoice was $10,578.10, and I'd like to motion to pay that.
So,
Second.
motion and a second to approve the Water payment, $10,578.10. Roll call, please.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
The last one, Dakota has the invoice for the overlay patches that were completed, and that total was $11,694.33.
Move to approve.
Yeah.
Motion and a second to approve the paper patches to Strata. $11,694.33, is that correct? Yep.
Pounds.
Well, that's pounds, so, yeah, that should be the dollars though.
Oh,
I just saw it. Pounds.
Counting pounds that they put down?
Pounds, yep. We're paying in pounds now.
it's in big fingers.
They weren't in Britain then.
Maybe the exchange rate's
Yeah,
favorable.
if we got 11,000 pounds of gold, we better not pay.
The dollar sign is right below the 4, so once in a while, we're getting a 4 there.
Roll call, please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Motion carries.
So I didn't get the invoices for our chip seal project or the gravel, which was just done, so they may present them at the next meeting. The chip seal project's around $300,000, so if Brad's wanting his money, just a heads up. That's all I have.
Well, do we have in your list of highway bills, Morris Seal Coat and Trucking?
I did not see that.
$312,540.24.
Okay, I was not aware. I was gone last week, so
Okay,
maybe we should have a motion to pay that too then.
we could do that.
I did, before I went on vacation, I did check the totals, and our totals match, so how much oil we use, how much rock we use, so the totals are
Okay.
correct.
outstanding simply for that one then.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we pay the seal coat.
Right.
Motion and second that we pay seal coat, $312,540.24 is the total on that.
Looked like they did a nice job like that.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I didn't drive out again, but I was able to, when I saw it at 17, I saw it was pretty nice.
Roll call, please.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye. Anything else, Kevin?
No, that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Of course, we got 3 inches of rain while we're tearing bridges out, so. Never fails.
You got 3?
Be up in the corner of Towner, Cavalier, Ramsey, we got 3 inches up there.
Wow.
You should have started tearing bridges up in April.
On that Saturday? No.
When everybody else got the heavier, or we got an inch here, or
Must have been Saturday.
Saturday afternoon, yeah. Then we had an inch and a half.
it was kind of just a little spot, but of course it hit the 2 bridges.
Oh, let's see. Water Resource Board, they looking to come in? Or
I can check.
we could allow Karen, did you have anything for us this morning? Okay. Thank you. Who's that? Oh, Steve, yeah.
You might have forgot he's busy as fuck.
Only had 1600s on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's what he said, he only had a tenth, square inch and a half. Nice rain.
I couldn't believe how much it rained in town. I got home and there was a puddle. You kidding me? Got robbed again.
So Candy's checking with Sheriff Nelson, make sure that he's not too busy to come in.
Should I check with the water board?
If you wanna check with the water board, let them know that we're ready for them. We greatly appreciate it, thank you.
And how much rain did you guys get? And how much rain did you get?
I think we got about 3/4 of an inch Saturday. Part of south we got one.
You didn't get any hail for it. Did I already ask you this?
First said hail a little bit, not much.
Oh, yeah, you
I wasn't
that.
They got pretty good out of Woodland.
Did you get half?
A little bit, but not, nothing that would be, nothing or anything. Little pea size.
That's about what we got in town there for 20-30 minutes.
Yeah, ours didn't last long, probably 4 or 5.
Morning.
Right.
So, well, we got a quick update on the Edmore Cooley project that we have going on. We do have the ballots out to the landowners right now. They started going out last week. We have informational meetings up in Hamden, and the Cavalier will have one in Dakota on the same day on the 8th. So that'll be coming up this week yet.
It's Edmore, isn't it? Double Deuce?
Yes.
Yeah, not Hamden. Okay.
Right. And so we'll have the meetings there. That'll, so at this point, they're gonna be handled mainly by the engineer. So the water board will be there to show our support for the project and answer any questions we can, but at this point, it's the engineer will be handling most of the stuff up there, so. Right now, it's got figured out that we'll be asking for about $13 an acre is what the projected cost of it's going to be. We're intending to have it built out over 7 years if it passes. So it's not really a very big cost per person compared to a lot of projects that are done in the state. So we're trying to make it fairly reasonable for everybody to handle it. So if we do 7 years at 4%, where they do have the option of, you know, if somebody wants to come in and pay off a lump sum, we discussed that they can do that too.
So I have 2 questions that I'm relaying from a farmer who asked me. The first one was, apparently, I of course didn't get one, but on these ballots, there's no identifying information on what land is involved, so is every farmer that has land at all just gets a vote, is that correct, or is it done by parcel, well, how is that done?
They get a vote per parcel.
Per parcel?
Yep.
Okay, so according to this farmer, there were no parcels listed, so
There was very little information that was sent out, and that was sent out by the lawyer that is being contracted for handling this. We were just talking about that in our office there, that, you know, doing this by committee, we, since the lawyer was up there, we left that for the, Cavalier County handled a lot of that, getting it to them, and after seeing it come out, we should have had it sent out to everybody so we could have gotten it a little bit more information on it for everybody. That's created a pretty big swamp of phone calls of everybody that got the ballot and asking what parcel it's pertaining to.
Right, and I think that leads into the second question, which is, the same farmer said that potentially some of this land that he's voting on would also potentially be in the Lawton watershed.
Right.
Right, so then you potentially are in two different watersheds at the same time
Right,
somehow.
you know, like everybody in the county is in the Channel A watershed. So you can keep adding layers on. So like I've got land that's in the Starkweather, so I still pay the Channel A if there is one. I pay the Starkweather. People that are a mile up the road are in the Hamer-Sullivan, they pay the Hamer-Sullivan, Starkweather, and Channel A.
Yeah, and I understand that people can double up, I just think that's one of the concerns that's being raised, is that they could get doubled up on it.
Right.
But I just thought I'd pass those two things along because farmer reached out to me and.
The Lawton area, that caused us a lot of discussion as to how to handle that. If we were gonna completely leave the Lawton watershed out of it, that was our first inclination. But then you can say, well, the water's gonna come into it. You know, we went back and forth a lot of ways, and the way it ended up right now, we're put the termination of the Edmore assessment area right at the Sweetwater Lake, so that any water that goes into Sweetwater Lake is going to be assessed for this. In the end, we thought that was the best way to handle it.
Okay.
And because we had a lot of questions about, the guys in the Lawton area brought up in the past about trying to get into an assessment, and at that point, it didn't make it there. The board felt there was no chance of it passing, so they dropped it. But,
Lawton is in now,
right, the Lawton is included in it.
and they're all right with it, generally.
You know, I feel that everybody that's in it, that their water comes in, should be included in it.
Right, but
It
they're all right with it?
The Lawton has a lot of different personalities, and I thoughts of it.
We'll find out how they vote on it. Does the Lawton dump into the Edmore?
Yes,
Sorry.
the Lawton dumps into the Edmore, maybe 3 miles from the Sweetwater Lake.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So I think that's the appropriate way to handle it. The way it was talked about was keep them out because there's potentially no boats in that area. That was kind of why we thought that in the first place, but I think there's enough boats up on the northern end that are going
Well, I think
for
it'd
this.
be more, yeah.
And honestly, in that Lawton area, from what people say in public to what they say to you in private, there's a big change in thoughts there too, so. I think people are getting more towards the point of we need to manage this water, not fight about it.
So, all of the work that's being done now, if this does pass, it sets up, is it going to set up an assessment district then that would be able to be used going forward as well?
Right, that's the way, like the other one we did, that snag and clear, I mean, we assess the money and pay for the work we've done, and then at that point, the project is ending. So this one will be a full project, it's a clean out project, so we're not changing any structures, we're not rerouting water, taking hooks off that people were asking about, it's just cleaning out exactly what is there. And from this point, you know, if it passes, the votes will be counted by the end of the month. We'll probably start spraying cattails this year yet if it passes.
And I would assume that this is a forever assessment?
That's I guess I've never seen where there's a sunset clause on any of these assessments that we have, so it should be there for the life of it.
And then once the initial project is done, those assessment values will change?
Right, after the original cost is paid for, at that point, the way we've been doing it is the water board has been figuring out what work needs to be done and, you know, just charging a small amount to keep some money in there as a operating fund for it. Like the circular Hamer Sullivan that we had, they actually did have an assessment on for close to 15 years after the original was paid off. And when we started cleaning them, we put some money back on, so we've got a fund built up. I think what we'll do going forward is we won't drop it completely off, just so people can still see that it's on there, you know, maybe go down to like 10 cents a year, just so that that line item is still on there and everybody understands that they're in that assessment area.
You've got good participation from the Edmore Cooley group?
Yes, you know, when we first did this, we put up $25,000 through our board, and we said that we require $25,000 put up from the landowners. We have 32 people signed the petition. The majority of them put up money up front, and you know, that money will get returned to them if it passes. We'll pay it back to them, but otherwise they're out if it doesn't pass, and we've got a fairly large bill with the engineers to pay for it if it doesn't pass. But we've accounted for that in our board, that we've got money on hand to pay for it.
They're pretty much for it.
Pardon me?
They're pretty much for it.
Yes, everybody that's in that Edmore area is, I mean, they see the damage that this does. So we really haven't found too much opposition to this. I'm sure there's a few people that, when it comes time to put their vote down, they'll be against it, but we haven't found any organized effort against it.
Is there any verbiage in the plan to where you're gonna start the project? So that it's not started at the top and works its way down? That it starts at the bottom and works its way top?
The way the engineer has looked at it, he wanted to start in probably 3 different areas, so that you don't open up the whole thing at once, get silt roads come down. The parts that need it the most have wetlands in them, and a lot of them probably won't be able to be worked on other than in the wintertime when you can haul the dirt out of the wetland physically. So about a month ago, I drove around trying to see as much of the channel as I could. And honestly, the Edmore Channel is in fairly good shape other than about 4 to 5 miles southeast of Edmore. There it's just lowland, it's almost a marsh with cattails. And that's the spot that's causing the problem. But again, that's wetlands that we have to deal with. And so after talking with the engineer recently, we'll probably be concentrated on having, you know, just like one hole going along and fixing small spots, corners and stuff that need to be fixed on the lower channel, and trying to work on that Edmore area as much as we're allowed to with all the alphabet agencies that are going to be involved. So there will probably won't be any work in Cavalier County until we get, you know, the slower stuff done. We're not going to be forcing water down on the guys that are stuck in the middle.
Is there any idea from the engineer of any additional water, or how much quicker the water that's up there will flow down into the?
Well, that's the first question that comes up whenever we talk to anybody about cleaning these ditches. Obviously, the cattails will be out that the water can move, but since we're not changing the structures, the water, unless it tops over a road, which it has many times in the past, won't come any faster than it had. What we did find on the Starkweather when we cleaned that was a major question we faced, is that we're gonna be making this channel and this water is gonna come out of Cavalier County so much faster. But what has happened is that the water can flow along the bottom of the channel instead of having to build up until it can go over top the obstructions. And it just moves so much easier that there's been less flooding on the Starkweather since it's been cleaned. And I can say that personally, that I've got land at the bottom that always floods when the Starkweather used to come out, and it has not come out of its bank since it was cleaned. And I'm only 3 miles from the bottom of it, so I'm right where you should be having problems if you're gonna have any. So just keeping that bottom of the channel clean is allowing the water to move so much more efficiently that it's not causing as much damage as it used to.
And that water that's coming down from, Cavalier County through the Edmore lot, and where does that water all end up?
So that water hits into the Sweetwater Lake, comes out, goes around by Webster and into the, kind of the northeast side of Dry Lake, where it comes down Channel A into Devil's Lake. And if we can get the Edmore passed, I think it will be encouraging some of the landowners on the bottom end of it, where it comes out of Sweetwater to Dry Lake, to look at doing, starting an assessment area. Right now the joint board controls that channel. And if you really pay attention to it, it's starting to need work in it too. So if we can get the water coming into the lake efficiently, we need to be able to get the water out of that lake efficiently also.
Any concern from the landowners on the downstream side of things that are impacted or flooded from the excess water?
We haven't heard a whole lot, and there's guys around the lake, Sweetwater, Morrison Lake area that have concerns. They had concerns before this all started, but after they heard that we're working to bring water in, they expressed a few more, and that's why I've been bringing up to them that we need to get that area into an assessment area so it can also be cleaned out. And going forward, I guess that's going to be our kind of our talking point is we've got water coming in, we need to maintain all the channels. If you're concerned about it coming from the top, we need to be concerned about how it leaves there and make our best effort to take care of it.
Well, thanks for the information, I appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. I would like to say to Kevin, after going out on a water complaint or issue yesterday, we were out going around looking at culverts and comparing sizes. If you have any chance to have anybody look through some of your bigger culverts, now would be a great time to be doing it. And we're looking through one, it's, it was a 70-inch culvert, so it's a big one, and you go look in and, that road is caving in over top of that culvert, or they're forcing them down, and it's probably been 20 years since we could look into some of these culverts. It would be a great time if you had the labor to spare to look at some of the older ones.
We're fixing one, it's just like you're saying.
And right now, we do have, working with Kevin has been going well over the last few years. Right now, we have a bridge replacement he had brought up, and we were gave some culvert size recommendations, but landowners had some concerns and brought it to us, so we've been working with Paul, found out that there was problems with their stream crossing analysis that the state had given us. It's much too small. I think they're going to replace a 24-foot bridge with a 36-inch culvert. When we looked at it, we said, well, we'll trust the engineer, but we'll probably double the size. Now when we get looking at it, there's 372-inch culverts north of this culvert. And we're talking about putting two 36-inch culverts in to handle that flow. So we're revisiting that, going to be working with the other guys here to hopefully not cause issues to anybody, but still keep in mind the cost of all these structures that somebody's got to pay for.
Bottom line, the state analysis isn't always perfect either.
Yeah, it took a couple conversations with Paul until that moment hit that, they didn't account for all the water that was coming, so it's good that we have people here that can figure out the problems before we get into them too deep.
And that snagging and clearing project with Nelson County, that is completed?
They're still doing a little bit of work on it. I talked to the contractor 2 weeks ago, was the last time I had contact with him. He said they're opening up the final sloughs on the north end. Some of them are 200-300 acres. He said as dry as it was, the water they'd open up the water and it would flow downstream a mile, and everything was just evaporating or sucking into the ground. So this was the exact best year to have a project like that go on, but the water that was being released isn't able to cause any damages. So they're going back now and going further into some of the sloughs that they'd released earlier, but so far, there's no water from the top, has made it down past the wildlife sloughs that are in the middle of it, and they have a controlled outlet height on them, and so we're hoping to work a little better with the Fish and Wildlife in the future, and maybe them seeing the benefit of being able to refill some of their wildlife areas now that they're going dry also.
Any other questions for Brian while he's here? Anything else about the Edmore Cooley that, Brian, that we should know?
Oh, that, I mean, I'm sure you're hearing some comments from landowners now. I wish that we would have been in the position that that information wasn't all included on it like that. That's made a lot of extra work for the office staff to answer all the extra questions that didn't need to be asked. I guess from that point, I don't have anything else on that other than that, but we are going to be offering our someone a position in our office to run the office, so I think we're deciding on that right now, so hopefully we get back up to full staff and be able to answer the public's questions a little bit better than what we have been this year.
Anybody else have anything for Brian?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Sheriff Nelson, welcome.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
Good.
You guys busy over the 4th? Well,
Nothing too major, just busy.
just busy. Well, thank you and your staff for all the work you guys do. And all the time and working holidays and nights and those kind of things, so appreciate you guys. Budget, page 16. Anything you wanna point out, Steve?
The only thing we really changed was we took out a capital outlay. That's where the payment for the search and rescue building was coming from for the last 5 years. We finally completed that. So Candy and I kind of sat down and visited and decided that this might be the opportunity we move that to my vehicle cost and maintenance line. We moved $70,000 out of there. And that is intended specifically for replacing radios in the next 2 years. We figured that would be the best way to do it without having to really, expand our budget, dollar-wise, since that money was already allocated in there. But this is an expense that's coming and we know it, and I'm gonna buy as many as I can next year with that money. And then we'll probably have to carry it over to another year to finish.
How many radios you gonna be able to buy?
Well, we bought 4 last summer for 25 grand. So, I need 14 more. So, you can kind of see where this is an issue of a lot of money. And that's kind of what's been concerning me, but. And then we also have to look ahead a little bit, that we're gonna have programming costs, installation costs, reprogramming costs. Because even if we program them for today, once they flip the switch to the Siren 2020, we gotta reprogram them to the new system, which we aren't sure what that cost is yet. Because it'll all be a different everything. So we're not trying to jump too fast, but I'm guessing I should be able to get more than half of what I need this next year if that money stays there. And then we should be able to get the other portion the following year. I think we're on schedule for 2023, 22, 23 to be implemented. So right on the but
On the first page, drug task force, you got a 0 there?
okay, there was just a financial thing going on there. There's 2 line items for drug task force in my budget.
Right.
One says city, one says county.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, we zeroed out the county line, And that just, because it was in there twice, so it's actually reducing my budget by 50-some thousand. Because it was already put in the county line city at 95,000, which covered that 50-some thousand that used to be in the county line item. So we just zeroed the county line item because it's already been paid for in the city line item. That make sense?
And we did that last year, we did it that way.
Well, no, it's in my budget for this current year, but we fixed it for next year. So we should have a $55,000 balance in there at the end of the year. So that we just return back to, did I explain that right, Candy? Okay.
We're not reducing our.
We're not reducing anything, we just found out there was an error, and it's in there twice, so we
We're not reducing our drug task.
no, we're not. In fact, we need to go the other way if we do, but anyway, not yet, you know. No, we need that, trust me, but we just found out that there was an extra dollar amount in there that was in there twice. So we just,
I got it.
we just took the one out.
I got it.
Okay.
Well, this,
I was just concerned about reducing our drug task force.
No, they're doing fantastic, and thank you very much for doing that last year, because they are busy, and they're not slowing down.
They're busy.
Yes, they are.
you say, we'll take the 55 grand and just use it someplace else.
Absolutely.
need more there?
Probably the state's attorney or the LAC.
At this point, I don't know, I don't think so, I think we're doing okay. But again, I'm gonna approach the other counties to step up if we need more, because they missed the ball, I think they missed the ball last time.
No question.
And we stepped up, you guys stepped up and helped us, and we needed it. And I think if we need more, then we're gonna have to go back to the,
Should Ramsey County designate you to go visit with these other counties?
you don't have to designate, I'll just go do it. I'll just do it, because it's important to me, I mean, that's a huge, boom. I mean, they're doing lots of things that, taking a lot of the burden off of what we used to do ourselves. It's huge, and they're busy, they're not,
You're gonna get on their agendas for the next
I
meeting
can't,
this month?
oh, this month, you want me to do it this month? I don't know if I can make them.
They're doing budgets the same time we're doing.
I don't think we're gonna get it by next year, but,
Keep working on it.
and then we have to decide if they're gonna add another position, or are they just gonna take over the 1/2 that we have, that, you know, we have 1.5 right now.
Keep us informed.
Yeah, I'll try to get on as many, you know, I suppose I just turned my lights on and drive from Eddy County to Langdon, you know, let's go.
The sooner.
No, I'll try
You
to
can
do
ride
some-
with me, I don't need lights.
Run all the back roads, right?
Oh, I take the main road, so I pay for them. I'll do it.
No, I will, we haven't talked about it this year, and everybody's kinda, so, it'll probably be new, so I don't know if we'll make it this year, but I think right now we can be okay I think we need to start planning ahead for a year later, maybe.
This is by far one of the most serious problems we have in our community.
Absolutely. Oh,
I mean, it's out of control.
It's out of control, you're exactly right.
We need to address it.
And we're starting to get some big, you don't hear about them because they're working with them, and it's not a big press release item we wanna do, because that saves the integrity of what they're doing. Because once, let's say I catch somebody with a bunch, we're trying to use them to go down the line. So, that's why you don't hear a lot about in the media of, oh, we had a big drug arrest, as we try, you know, we're working with that, trying to go deeper and bigger, and they're starting to do a lot of seizures, we're getting a lot of money, which all goes back to that asset forfeiture fund. So, which that also helps us with, you know, for them, with some extra funding for equipment, training and things, so, they're busy. We are not gonna if that's all in mind, we are not gonna reduce that anyway, the only way we're going is more, whatever way we can.
Thank you. Thank you for your diligence.
I know they appreciate the support, because Travis always is. You know, we don't have we're still fighting some of the smaller counties, but I don't know why. But I will work on them, and I will, it might take me a little bit, I don't know if I'll get it done this year, but I think we need to plan for a year from now.
If you need some help to go to them smaller counties, I'll go with you.
Okay. We could maybe do it before September, but that doesn't help us, because they gotta have their finals in what, 1st of August?
First meeting in September.
And then you can only go down from there, right? Once
Yeah.
your preliminary is approved.
We gotta do it this month.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna make it this month, but I'll definitely start working on that again.
We just-
Other than that, I didn't change anything else in our budget, except maybe a couple little adjustments for like gas prices. Kinda hard to, that's a big expense for us. And if it goes up to $3 or $4, we kinda creates a big issue as far as dollar wise.
Pretty much just have to eat it, right?
Pretty much.
The
There's not much control over it.
sheriff's truck isn't very scary if it can't chase you.
Oh, he's sitting at the stop sign, because he's got a mileage restriction. Trust me, we've been through that before, where we told him to slow down, but it's really not very effective, so, but that might be the only other thing that I didn't really change much else. Other than that, one line, that capital outlay came, we took that money out, put it for raises, so. We're starting to work on that, and we'll try to get that going.
That's right.
I don't want to be on that page. No, we don't need more deputies, no.
At this point,
Nobody's told you we needed more deputies
let
yet?
me get the ones I got going and see what we can, they're doing good though, that was a very needed assistance for us, because we're actually okay. We're still a little strapped at times, but.
Been able to hire enough deputies?
Yes, I'm still short one,
Okay.
but that's another issue. It's not because of
It's not because of funding.
no. It's a personnel issue, so some things are going on. But anyway, hopefully we'll have that filled, hopefully here come 1st of September, and then we should be back in full strength. We'll go from there.
A little over $200,000 increase from last year,
Or,
your budget
well,
overall.
I guess I never had the number.
The total from 883,472 to 1,091,990. And I would assume that a big portion of that is the extra deputies that we approved last year, and then the 160 for the vehicle radios. That's
That'd be most of that for this year's budget.
right.
Yeah. That was a big expense this
Yeah.
last year.
So,
You don't realize all the things that go along with the one position. I didn't. I'd be surprised still, so. We're doing okay though, I think.
oh, good. Like Commissioner Brown said, if you need any additionals, let us know.
Will do.
Thank you. Any other questions for Sheriff Nelson?
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Any additional old business? Can we move on to note, Candy, you ready?
You might have to increase your rent line.
Your rent,
Steve.
your rent,
What?
your rent.
Sorry?
Your rent,
I think that went up in LEC's budget.
Oh. Okay, guess they don't tell me those things.
We may have to increase that.
Okay. That's one of those line items that I really don't have any control over or no. That's just kinda in my budget because it's our budget. I don't really. Do what for
Sound
that?
like somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're starting to sound like somebody else.
Oh. Is that good or bad?
I would say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We'll make those necessary adjustments.
Okay.
All right, under new business, we have a discussion on park board property. Right across from where Joe's Sports Center or Lake Ready Mix is, Jerry Gilbertson had a house there back in the 70s, burned down in 84. His daughter is looking to acquire some additional property that belongs to the park board. And a lot of pictures in there. I thought it would be a pretty good thing to be able to do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
I guess I'm kind of confused on this. The park board owns the parcel,
Yeah.
Yes.
so why do we have to approve it?
Well,
Because
okay,
there's
I'm gonna-
documentation that says we sold the parcel to the park board in 1935 or something like that?
But there's verbiage down below that says, okay, I'm gonna try.
So there's something in the contract from way back then. Because I looked at it saying, isn't this just the park board should just sell this directly to this
Yeah,
individual?
there's-
I must have missed that in the contract.
There's verbiage in there that says if
The
the
said
Park
real
board.
estate herein described is deeded to said park board
Okay.
of the city of Devils Lake, must be North Dakota, to be used as an athletic and recreational field and playground, and that in the event that it shall cease to be used for such purpose, the title thereto shall immediately revert to Ramsey County, North Dakota.
Oh, I must have missed that.
The only way the park board can get rid of it is give it back to us. Right?
That sounds correct based on what you just
That
said.
or we would have to change the contract language from way back when to say that we're okay with them
We'll
keeping
take
it and they can sell it. Does the park board's in the loop on this?
Yep.
And they're okay with it essentially reverting to us, then us selling it to this individual? Or are we allowing them to sell it?
Or we can just
You gotta revert back to us.
redo the
You gotta
county
revert back
deed.
to the county legally.
Yeah.
Can do a corrected deed.
The state's there to look at it.
He did, and that's why I was wishing he was here.
Yeah, that's what I was
The
wondering.
way you just read it, I'd say it's gotta revert back to the county. County can do what they want with it. County didn't sell it to the park board for them to sell it to somebody else.
Well, and it's just sat there forever, hasn't it? It's never been a athletic field or,
No.
my guess is they must have thought way back when that they were probably thinking ahead for utilization purposes to put a park there or something, and it just never occurred.
Well, that was long before the US highway came through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
Highway
just-
kinda,
They were just thinking we'll plan ahead type of
you
deal.
know,
That's why nothing's been done with that property forever, it's just been sitting there. I always
Well, in
wondered why.
1935, they probably thought Devil's Lake could be 50,000 people by now and be a good place to put a park. There's a neighborhood there.
On the opposite side.
Good spot for a convenience store.
Does that line up with other ball diamonds?
No, it's across the road on the
It's like-
south side.
It's by Davis Motel, right?
Yeah,
And by Senex there.
no, it's past it.
It's past.
it's the furthest to the west, right?
Oh, right.
Right across from where Joe's, Sports Center is last,
And it's-
turn out of their property.
And Stefan has the property to the east of that.
Yeah,
And by putting them together, then they have the ability to put something on it.
yeah,
A little bigger convenience store.
Hmm?
You gotta have a bigger convenience store.
well, I think what's indicated is that the guidelines say that it's too small of a lot to put anything on it.
How big does the lot get if you add the addition?
If you add that,
I'm just curious.
It's like about 160 by 200.
It's not the other lot size.
This map, this map has over here.
Down here.
Yeah.
Oh, here. So this is further out. So they're trying to get this corner.
Well, they're taking this right here, and this is all, they have this right here, and this is all they use.
After it's trying to.
Yeah.
They're still gonna be screwed up down here.
Yeah. Unless they sell, they will.
Okay, I must have a plan. They're trying to purchase it. You know,
Yeah.
right now, there's nothing there.
Bev, you have any recommendations for us?
I guess if the county's not gonna use it, I would suggest giving it back to the park board. They plan on selling it if it's given back. is
You
what
can't
I-
give it back to them.
Yeah, it's the way that legally,
You can do it correctly,
well, then we have to do that.
without that terminology on there.
Yeah, we could just, that's what I'm saying, there's two options.
Or let the state's attorney look at it.
They either let it revert to us, and then we have the option to sell, or we correct the deed and allow them to sell.
One thing that should be noted is, in that description, it gives a, is it 60-foot thing? The next document I saw in the series says 50 feet. There's a, yeah, the next document, I can't remember who did the next document, it said it decreased the size of that lot. Another document that on the north side of that property, they sold that, and they added more land
To
into
the
there
city,
than what
or to
actually
the
they
highway.
should have.
Well,
Well, the highway got some of it.
given all of this seeming uncertainty, I motion that we table this and allow
Yes,
the state's attorney and auditor to come up with a corrective deed. And if one is impossible, then we can discuss other options for the next meeting.
There's really nothing we can do until we know
We gotta know what
the
we
legality of it.
Now we gotta know if we have, you gotta know what you're selling it for.
not in the,
Can't be selling settings, we don't know.
Hey, that's not a bad idea, we get some revenue.
We have a motion to table it and allow review from state's attorney and auditors to come back with a,
Corrective deed if one is possible, and if not, then we can discuss other options.
I'll second that.
If you can't do a corrective deed, you have to declare it surplus and put it up for auction.
I think only if the park board said that they for sure didn't want it, right?
Yes. They would have to go forward, I guess.
got that, Candy?
Yep.
All right. All right, motion and a second to do a corrective deed if possible and take things from there. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We've done the joint powers with the district health for HR, special permit.
Documentation's over there?
Application to sell alcoholic beverages at a
move to approve.
Okay.
motion and a second to approve the special permit. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approve the surplus property list. The basement is full of junk.
So there's some trash cans.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sometimes the time and effort to put these things together is far outweighs the benefit of the revenue that we receive from them.
Well,
We have a motion and a second to approve the surplus property. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Standing committee for the North Dakota Association of County Commissioners. I think last week? Our time is flying. That we had a meeting with Northeast 9, NDACO President Stan Dick, as well as Terry Trainer, reminded us about these standing committees. And a survey monkey that had gone out, that we could go in and do it on an email. There's 3 different standing committees that they're looking, well, 4 different, I get 5 different. No appointment necessary for the additional legislative and constitutional bylaws committees, but audit committee, nominating committee, and resolution committees for the Association of County Commissioners. If anybody's interested in serving on those. Is that one from each county or is that one from the region? I think it was.
I think it's one per region.
But anyway, they are turned in by Wednesday, July 14th. I've got a mailing address there.
If I remember right, this is just 1 year.
Yeah.
That's right, it's just between now and the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's usually between now and the October conference.
And while we're mentioning that, conference registration I think opens today, October 3rd through the 5th is when that's scheduled, the NDACO conference.
Reschedule our October meeting.
So we should reschedule our October meeting, and those interested, please let Candy know and get that registration taken care of.
Would we like to move our October meeting to that Thursday or the following Tuesday or what?
No, it's because it's budget, so probably that Thursday.
So we have to move it from the 5th to the 7th then.
They scheduled that conference for the first Tuesday in
Yes.
October?
They always do.
Always do. Yeah,
Always.
yeah,
Always.
yeah,
Depends on the venue.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, it's when they can get the civic center. So we have to move it to the 7th. I'll make the motion that we change our first meeting of October move it from the 5th to the 7th at 8 a.m.
Sorry.
Motion and a second that we reschedule our October meeting from the 5th to the 7th, 8 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. While we're on the Association of Counties, they will be doing their President's Tour and visiting Ramsey County on the 23rd of July, I believe. Is that from like 2 to 4?
21st.
Or is it the 21st?
I think Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 21st? Okay.
Starts at 3.
Starts at 3. Okay. So, and Kevin could maybe, you've been on those tours before, correct?
Yeah, but they basically just want your input of what, if there's any changes that the association needs to make, or you can have legislative concerns heard at that time, and they'll work on those thoughts also.
So they like to visit the offices within the building as well,
If there's time.
if there's time.
Yep.
So we'll make sure that we do an extra thorough spit shine. And welcome the President's Committee to come in and tour Ramsey County Courthouse. So I think that's one of the highlights that they'd like to show off is county's buildings, so.
They generally hold the meeting first and then tour after.
Right. So we need to schedule probably a larger meeting room Then
There's
this one,
probably 5 people coming, 6.
5 people.
But if you invite department heads and.
Sure. Maybe the basement or, okay. 21st. All right. Next item in the packet was a notice from the North Dakota Water Resource District Association, summer meeting, July 13th through the 14th. Tour planned on the 15th. This will be down at the Alara Center in Grand Forks. If anybody's interested in partaking in that. Go ahead, and that 21st meeting, I will not be in attendance to. I was asked to represent the Association of Counties on the Legislative Interim Committee on Water Drainage. And they meet in Bismarck on the 21st, is their first meeting. So they're looking at rewriting North Dakota's drainage laws, or combining a couple of them together. So I will have to make sure that I get with Kevin and talk about highway concerns and drainage and water before we go through that, but I'm sure the other commissioners and department heads will represent Ramsey County at the president's meeting on the 21st. Next item on the agenda is review billing for bleachers at the Peterson Building, the Ramsey County Event Center. We discussed this back, I think, in maybe our April, May meeting. May.
We approved $3,000, and what happened is the company that sent it charged them more for the shipping, is what ended up happening. I talked to them, and I told her to bring it up to Candy and we review it, not that we could take care of it, but.
You want a new motion, Candy, or I want?
Yep.
I'll make a motion, we cover the bill.
Second. They're nice looking bleachers.
Yes.
Moved
Good
and-
addition, good addition.
Yeah, moved and seconded to approve the invoice for the bleachers at the Ramsey County Event Center. $3265.89 was the total. The bleachers came in at under $3,000, but freight was just about $500, so
That'll do it.
that'll do it. Roll call, please.
Wakefield?
Aye.
Brett? Oh,
Aye.
wait, you lost. Sorry. Volk? Lightcon?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Brett?
Aye,
I was writing letters, sorry.
that's all right. Approved letter of transfer.
Move to approve. Sorry.
Motion and a second to transfer $325,181.74 from the general fund to the law enforcement center fund. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Visitors and delegations. Mr. Dornson, you have anything for us today?
Fishing has no boundaries, I guess I'll be in there now, maybe, but fishing has no boundaries says, their fishing event Friday and Saturday and Sunday this coming weekend.
It's coming
Out
weekend.
of Lake Marina, so if anybody's got a boat and wants to spend a couple days out with the people on the lake, would otherwise be able to do it for a weekend.
Got the 10th and 11th, the dates on those?
Yep.
All right. Portfolios. Commissioner Lightbon, we'll start with you over there.
Yeah, been fairly quiet. State's attorney, I visited with Paul about his budget. Going forward, I think we're gonna be looking at possibly, I don't know if he's got it in yet, but possibly a little bit of an increase there to add some staff. The caseload has just been, I mean, going back to what we were talking about with drug task force, the caseload has just been exponentially increasing. It's just, you showed me some of the numbers of this year over last year and even the year before, it's just insane the caseload, what's going on. So I think we're gonna have to probably help him out, we have some staff up there so that they don't get swamped. Had a good discussion with him about that. Obviously, along with that, there's gonna possibly be the need for some additional space for the state's attorney's office, just because they're on top of each other already. We've already subdivided offices in there. So, but that's a long-term discussion, but something that we're thinking about. Extension office, we had closed retirement party last Thursday. Very well attended. Sad to see him go, but again, we've talked about it many times. I believe his regional director was there. I thought she was talking about maybe coming in. Must have been able to make it to the next meeting.
Yep.
To talk about our path going forward. So we'll have to start thinking about that as well and how we're going to set up a hiring committee or however extension goes about doing that. We'll get some input on that at the next meeting. For Devil's Lake, we meet tomorrow, so I'll have some information at the next meeting possibly. County Housing Authority, we've been going through trying to add some staff. I haven't talked to Tim for a week or so, so I don't know if we got other people hired, but we had a couple people that were looking at hiring to add on to staff. Social Services, we did not meet last month. We will be meeting, I believe, next week. So, trying to think if there's anything else. Other than that, Highway, I just keep tipping away. It's summer, get stuff done. That's all I've got, I think.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Volk?
Lake access, we didn't meet last month, canceled the meeting. The Fair Board 4-H days went well, and we have a meeting coming up, just talking about the rodeo and stuff, to see if it was worth it a while. And recorder, treasurer, big thing was putting stuff in digits. And treasurer, the last thing we did was the money transfer. So things going on.
Mr. Brown, do you have anything?
Yeah, the jails, a lot of inmates in there, I know that, 99 over there. And checks, no slow down there at all. And I made a trip to Carrington on Thursday to see Senator Holden and talk about the drought. Kind of a impressive crowd, I guess. It was a hot, dry day, everybody remembers. And then, RMA was there. Gentleman from there, and it just seemed like they got a lot of questions about they want this crop released, but it's not gonna happen. I don't know how that works. And anyway, I'm sure there'll be more go on. I mean, I don't have a problem with what they're doing, but there was a lot of people in the meeting that they thought they wanted to get hay crops seeded, you know, where there's no crop coming. There's parts of North Dakota that's that way, so. But they didn't get much satisfaction, they didn't say much. And, good crowd, good crowd.
Releasing any federal lands for haying or grazing?
CRP, they're gonna release it, but the release date is what the argument is.
Yeah.
So late.
They want it on the 15th of July. I think it's gonna get pushed out to the 2nd of August, that's my guess, but. It wasn't, like I said, much satisfaction from the officials that were there. Senator Holden tried to prod them a little bit, but Goring, Secretary Goring, their agricultural secretary. They had a good group of people, I mean, there was a lot of representation from the whole state, so. But like I said, it was a hot, dry day, everybody remembers.
Yeah. Well, going down and.
Yeah, I would
taking
think
them out,
about
yeah.
it. I guess that's all I know. And talk about social service.
LEC, we had that meeting with the city on this, last month. We're scheduled for another one coming up on the 16th of July. Yeah. So, I'm not sure if we wanna, I know we're not meeting again before then. If we need to do any adjustments or brainstorming between now and then.
I'm open to suggestions, I don't know.
I don't,
I think we all can safely say we didn't feel it went very well first meeting.
yeah, I mean, I guess from my opinion, I mean, I think I know where we stand.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and I think coming away from that meeting, I think the city just has to make a determination on what they want to do going forward. I mean, the ball's kind of in their court, in my opinion, at this point. I mean, we all know that the cost of running the LEC is gonna exponentially keep moving upwards. I mean, especially if we continue to pick people up, the state's attorney's numbers keep continuing to rise, we know it's gonna cost more money. The only, you know, we've talked about in the past, well, you know, shipping people other places, and that's just a non-existent option. We have to have the law enforcement center, so it's gonna cost us money to run it, we know that. We are just looking at the budget, we're looking at the possibility of an additional $300,000 from the county next year, it looks like. Over the top of the, you know, we're going from 140 to 17, you know, it's gonna cost more money. I mean, I think our options are, I mean, it all comes back to the same concept of, you know, not between us and the city necessarily, but just long-term funding options. That, you know, we're a hub community. We catch more people in this community than that just live in this community. So we have to continue, I think, to work on the state and say, it's no different than the concept of, well, it's different, but no, very similar to the concept of social services. And that the state needs to step up and start sharing some of the costs. I mean, 70% of our budget outside of, well, goes to state's attorney, sheriff, and put people in jail outside of roads.
Right.
It's getting to be ridiculous.
It is, there's no question, I mean, I figured
Yeah.
$115,000 law enforcement 1 month.
Yeah, and we just keep, the problem with it is we continue to talk about, you know, the escalated cost, but we're really doing nothing to solve the problem. We're just rolling the circle, rolling the circle, rolling the circle, when we need to talk about the state, I mean, and we need state funding long-term to help do treatment, rehab, all of those things. We try to do stuff through the reentry center, things like that. Those cost money. And then we try to ask for an increase for the reentry center from the state. They won't even grant an increase when we're sending people in there and trying to do the right thing. And it's costing us money to help over every day to hold the people that they have to try to do the right thing to make sure they don't come back again. So it's just frustrating, but I guess from the perspective of us in the city, they just have to determine what they want, I guess, you know.
One thing to add there, when I was at the law enforcement center the other day, Rob told me he talked to Swanson, our lawyer, and he was looking into agreements around the state between the county that has the jail and the city. I don't remember which ones he was talking about, but agreements for housing prisoners the city brings in, you know. I don't know the particulars about them, but Rob said they, you know, they look reasonable. I mean, it was nothing, it was getting thrown around the other day, $200 charge or whatever, you know. And I mean, I'm sure the county had no interest in doing that. But like Adam said, I mean, this has been on the table for us, you know, for quite a while, and I really feel it's there that they want out. You know, if they want out, that's fine. I think it's kind of.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I mean, we're not gonna put the screws to anybody, but at the same time, we have to cover costs. So we'll have to have an idea if they decide that that's the route they wanna go, what the costs are, and we'll have to set up a reasonable dollar figure for what we
Either way,
Yeah, a reasonable dollar figure for what we think the daily rate is, and then there'll have to be some type of parameter within the contract if that's the route it ends up happening, with a percentage either way saying, you know, there might have to be some type of bump bill at the end of the year or something like that if our costs come in over our projection of what our daily rate will be, and we'll go from there, I guess. But hopefully they come up with a determination of what they want to do.
Yeah, well, my two thoughts are, it has not been helpful that the city continues to maintain such an adversarial relationship with the county. I don't see who it benefits, I don't understand why, we're essentially on the same team here. But if they want out, they want out. And there's only so much sort of hand-holding that you can do with them before you have to say, okay, there's the door. If you want to walk through it, go ahead. So that's kind of my opinion. The only thing that I did want considered as a potential change to that agreement as written was you're handing over all of this power to essentially invoice all the counties. So we're all members, but we all just get an invoice. It's not something that we get to really budget for in the way that we did, according to the way I was reading that agreement. I'm hoping that we can add a provision in there where if you got a majority of the membership, in the event of something really unforeseen happening, a majority of the membership to essentially revert back to budgeting, right? Because you're ceding all of the power from all the members to the board, which is fine. But if for whatever reason all of the member counties did not feel that the board was doing the right thing by those member counties, that you could revert the budgeting authority back out to the member counties through like a majority vote of all of the counties. Does that make sense?
A little bit, no.
I guess I've always, I guess, and it's not a legally binding thing, but I've always viewed it as, the budgeting authority, yes, lies at the county level, but we've always entrusted the individuals from this commission to go sit on that LEC board to do the budgeting, and when they come back with a number, we say, okay, that's what we're gonna have to live with, and we go with it. Now, under the provisions of the new agreement, does it change where the power lies to a point? Yeah, I agree it does somewhat, but it still, to me, functions essentially the same exact way, in that if we don't want to pay for it, then I guess we don't pay for it, but then we're in arrears. No different than we've been in the past. We're gonna pay the bill regardless, so. But I understand, maybe there's a way we can put language into the provision that essentially still makes it function essentially the way it does now, but I think there's just so much up in the air in terms of how we're going to function this thing if the city decides they don't want to be a part of it anymore.
Well, at that point, you basically may as well rewrite the whole.
Well, and that's what I'm essentially getting at. If the city decides they don't want to be in it anymore, then at some point in time, we have to make we'll have to have that discussion with the other counties on how they would like to handle it going forward. Do they want to stay in a joint powers agreement, or do they want to go simply to a daily rate? Or that's a lot of hypotheticals being thrown out there, but until the city again makes their mind up on what they want to do.
I don't think there's any question
Or
what
in the air.
county did stay. They really have no other alternative.
Well, I think
Now,
they're
if they
gonna.
want to hold them over the barrel, I wouldn't.
No, I think they're gonna stay, but my question is, do they want to continue to function as a joint powers agreement with the board, or would they want us to just run the thing and bill them?
Sure, bill them. No, that,
Do they not
We can
want,
throw that out.
do they not want the hassle anymore? So I think it all hinges on what the city wants to do. And the problem we're gonna run into at this point, I guess budgeting doesn't necessarily function the joint powers agreement because we'll budget accordingly. It's gonna cost so much to run the jail, we're gonna put the money in, we're gonna put the figure in the budget. But we have to come to a conclusion at some point in the near future here so we can have the discussion on how we're going to function this thing going forward if there's gonna be a drastic change.
I certainly think it benefits the other entities involved in the LEC instead of just sending their prisoners there to have a seat at the table and be
Oh, I
part of
disagree.
that board. I think that's the best benefit all the way around.
Well, I agree completely.
Something like that. And so it would certainly behoove, because I don't know if we want to just sit back and say, okay, well, if the city wants to be out and they just want to pay a daily inmate cost or what have you, then they have no seat at the table. I think that would be a very big mistake on their part.
I agree.
I don't disagree, but that's their choice to make.
It's certainly their choice to make, and
I would like to see the joint powers continue. If the city wants out, they want out, but with the other counties still having a
Yeah.
voice in
yeah.
what's occurring.
I think they're a very valuable part of the decision-making process
Yes,
over
I agree.
there, so.
But I think we need the city's commitment by the end of this next meeting. I know that's kind of the intention anyway, but I don't think we can leave it and
Right.
say, okay, what did we learn here today? Nothing.
Yeah,
You know, you really need to know, are you gonna be okay with this? Because otherwise, we're gonna keep ending up in this
Yeah,
stupid limbo spot that we seem to end up in all the time.
right.
yeah, and that's the thing. We have to have a solid commitment going forward, or a solid saying we're no longer functioning as part of this, because we continue to run back to the same place where who's gonna budget and where's the money gonna come from, and it's just, it seems like we've been having, not this specific conversation, but some variation of this conversation for quite a while.
Right. And
I think Lucas used a key word here, limbo. And I agree with him, it's been in limbo for quite a period of time. I'm not gonna put a years or on it at all, but it's way longer than I think it should, I know that. I mean, it makes it difficult on the board to, you know, see where you're at every month, you know, and support, work in a group, you know, not kind of work two different ways.
Yeah, and I think that our focus should be making sure we have a committed partner in the city, and the details of that partnership are secondary.
Yeah.
You know, that it's like, we need to go in there and find out the answer.
Yeah.
Because I'm sick of asking the question across the table, well, are you guys in or out? And then mumble, 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 mumble. You know, it's like, tell us what you want to do. You know, what's it gonna be? Anyway.
I'm sure glad we're having this discussion.
Yeah.
It was a discussion we needed to have.
Yeah.
I didn't want to instigate it by any means, but
No.
I'm glad we have.
Well, and the part of it is like you said, I mean, we all know where we're at. I think this board has been there back in the LAC for pretty much forever. I mean, our bill has gone from, I think the first year I was on the commission that we budgeted, or the first budget year that I sat on the commission of 15, we were at $432,000 or something like that for the LAC, now we're gonna be at 1.7. I mean, so we've stepped up and said, we're gonna make sure we take care of what needs to be taken care of. So I think we just have to get a solid commitment one way or the other.
I don't understand is, do they have a plan to do something else? Because if we just charge them up front, they're gonna pay the same money either way. With no voice.
Likely pay more.
And with no voice.
Right, of course.
What I don't understand is, it just, to me, feels like they have another plan that they're not telling us.
I don't think they do. From what I've talked about, the people that are the most opposed to it, they just see the big number all the time, and in their head, in the back of their head, something they haven't fully fleshed out is somehow it's gotta be cheaper somewhere else and we can figure it out, we should just gotta.
I don't care if they take with their rugby or grand park.
Right, they're never gonna be able to save any money,
They're gonna
right?
run them on the road, there's no,
But,
and then
There's no money saved, this is.
I mean, there's gonna, I mean, they don't like the fact that they're paying rent for a building they own, and I understand that, but hypothetically, if the police department wasn't there, you'd be renting it to somebody else.
Right.
So there's gotta be rental agreement to the function
but
of the
it's all,
building.
I mean,
It's all gonna get wrapped, it's all gonna get wrapped in
It's like,
somehow.
okay, if you don't want it called rent, what do you wanna call it, goodwill? Like, you
Yeah.
just tell me what you need it to be called, because you gotta pay it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can take the $75 and turn it into $85 or $95, but the whole point is that the Benson County Sheriff isn't housed in the law enforcement center. The Ramsey County Sheriff is, and the police department is, so we should be paying our fair share of the square footage that's being used by our facility.
It's a separate identity.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't make sense that Benson County should have to pay more on a daily rate when we're the ones housing our sheriff's office there. If you wanna put your police department someplace else, I guess you can, but there's overhead costs there too. So,
I don't just have to see what we see.
yeah, but like you said, we have to ask for a firm commitment. Which way are you going? So we can plan more forward.
Do we need to, this is next week, that meeting, isn't it?
Week from Friday.
I was just trying to come up with an idea of how to make sure we get a final answer, how we do it. I don't know.
We can have that conversation. Hopefully they have this same type of discussion at their meeting tonight. I haven't taken a look at what their agenda looks like. but I know they do meet tonight.
Well, and I looked at, they had a meeting not long after we discussed last time, and I assumed they were gonna have that, they're gonna have to have that discussion.
Yep.
And they didn't have it at the last meeting, because I didn't hear anything about it on the news. I guess I wasn't in attendance, but I would have heard about it, I would assume.
Well, Rob, he hasn't even discussed the budget with them. He was at a meeting and they wouldn't put him on the agenda and he sat there and he left.
So,
Maybe that tells us what their answer is.
right, but I think that in order to get a firm commitment, the way to do it is basically an agreement between the city and the county, which we can hammer out at the time of the meeting, that we will not call into question ownership of the building, ownership of anything in the building, or anything else related to the LEC for 5-10 years.
Like maybe forever, huh?
Well, no, I know, but you'll never get them to agree forever, but just to say, we will hammer out an agreement that we agree that the status quo is what it is, or if it needs to be changed, whatever, but that this is not going to come up again.
You're saying you want a commitment for a certain amount of years to say we're not gonna be dabbling around with this anymore.
Exactly.
Not for perpetuity, but.
Right, like if you could get 5 or 10 years out of the city to just say, this is not gonna come up, we're not gonna have a conversation about whether or not you're gonna transfer ownership to Ramsey or whatever else.
He's looking for his term, so they have to deal with it.
Well, 10 years might be enough to cover yours too. You want, well, then maybe we fight for 10.
Well, and I think, you can't game out exactly what's gonna happen in that meeting. I mean, but at the end of the day, if they decide they don't want it anymore, then what's a fair price? And,
Right.
there's a lot of questions that need to be answered at that point. There really
Yeah, because
truly
you got
are.
one guy that on the board said, oh, $1, and the next guy is all upset because he said that. You could see there was some, even internally.
Well, and how do you assess that building? I mean, there's a whole other,
Well, and I guess we'll just have
Can
to,
of worms
we'll have
open
to
at
see.
that point,
Well,
but
I
yes.
mean, but that's one of those things that we can hammer out if it's obvious that they're heading out the door.
yeah,
Right, but I think if they're not heading out the door, I think the way that you get a firm commitment and then we don't end up needing to do a joint meeting where we stare across the table at each other and almost come to blows every year is let's get them to put some ink on paper that says, once we finish here today, this will not come up for 5 years. And I don't know how you put teeth to that, but there's gotta be something.
well, there's gotta be teeth in the joint powers that says if we're gonna fund this thing, then we're gonna fund it. We're not gonna play this, we're gonna underfund it and then we'll see what happens and, well, maybe sometimes we'll pay on time and maybe we won't and.
You can't run a business like that. You just can't do that.
So,
It's a business, no matter how you look at it. It's a business, yeah.
You know?
Well, it's necessary,
No, we have no choice.
yeah.
How do we have no choice?
I mean, we can try our best, like Rob said, to try to maybe control costs through certain type of situations, but even controlling cost in this situation isn't necessarily in the best interest of the facility. I mean, I'm not saying you blow money out, what I'm saying by controlling cost is, we're having problems hiring.
Oh,
Because now, is part of that wage? Probably. We saw Cass County already move their wages up because they can't get enough people.
sure.
Now, I'm not saying we have to be competitive with Fargo, but you have to be competitive with what's occurring in your community. And getting people to work for less than $15 an hour, or whatever it is now, is getting very, very difficult. Well, if you can work for $15 an hour at a job where you have basically no responsibilities versus a job where we're asking, what, $17.50 to start or something like that? With a ton of responsibility, it's not requisite to what we're asking of people for what we're asking to pay them, maybe. I mean, so the cost isn't going down, is what we keep saying here. So how do we, I mean, and I think we've done as best we can over the amount of time we have with the budget we've had, but I want a commitment so we can make more investment into the facility, so we can do better in the facility. Not so we're just skimming along.
Make it safer for our CEO.
Yes.
So,
But we gotta know where everybody's at if we're gonna do that.
Right.
Just that simple.
Well, I think maybe we have to go into the meeting with the attitude that, damn it, we're not leaving until we have an agreement here. I mean, we're gonna have an agreement one way or the other. You're gonna
Yeah.
decide to be in or out.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's exactly
If
right.
we can't get that done in the first 10 minutes, then I don't think the meeting needs to last any longer.
I mean, we don't necessarily have to have every single thing hammered out, but we gotta know where they're at.
And I want whatever agreement comes out of that meeting, like I said, we need to find a way to make sure that it lasts, some way to hold them to it, because otherwise, whatever agreement we make, wouldn't be surprising to me at all if next year we're right back there again. Right, it's gotta have some kind
What
of.
they're gonna get charged for jail costs or whatever, I mean, well, if you don't trust us, you wanna look for something else, you know, I just throw it in their court. We know what we wanna do. We're not afraid to take that jail on, I know the county is.
And then still leave some authorization and authority to the LEC board.
Absolutely,
And for purchases that,
absolutely.
that the city thinks needs to come back to them before purchases being made. Some of that stuff is operational needs that needs to be done.
Well, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that with the board when there's been a large expense coming back to, I mean, we haven't done any large expense stuff without, I mean, because most of the time what occurs is somebody has to sponsor it, somebody has to take a loan out on it. So all of the entities that have to talk about it and say they're on board, I mean, when we talk cameras, when we talk anything like that, I mean, it's not like it hasn't been communicated back to us that this is what we're on the siren, what we're on the hook for, this is what we're gonna do. Are we all on board?
So anyway, that meeting July 16th, correct? 8:30? Okay, all right. So as long as everybody's on the same page and puts that in their calendars, we can move forward and hopefully have a direction before we get there of which way everybody's leaning. So, okay. Commissioner Wakefield, anything on portfolios?
The only meeting I've had was Dakota Prairie, and everything's going well, and you heard from the sheriff, and that's about it, so I'll be short and sweet.
All right, I'll keep things short and sweet as well. Airport's going fine. Boardings are increasing as pandemic numbers continue to decline and restrictions continue to decline. Boardings are getting close to those 2019 numbers. We're not looking at 2020 for comparisons because there really wasn't any. COVID dollars at the airport are moving forward with some different plans and ideas and structures and things like that. So chamber meeting I had to miss, but things are busy at the chamber. I think they have Crazy Days coming up at the end of this month. Had the walleye tournament last week. I can't remember if they had 100 teams out there for that, but 95. Little down, but I think they opened it up to 125. I think is the number that they look for, but they were a little down. I see Blaine's participated in that, and good job. What place did you guys finish?
Top 30.
Yeah, so good job. Yeah.
You got outside of the, I was down there with that net over there.
Yeah.
Sure good.
Yeah. So anyway, things are going well. So.
They're doing a Rig Fest coming up, right?
Rig Fest is coming up, Crazy Days is coming up, they got a lot of activities planned at the chamber office. Been working with Candy on her budget and staff, and Brian on his, and Chris on his. So budget times is always interesting at the county level, but I would certainly want to thank everybody for their hard work and diligence through the process. So.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I do sort of have an announcement, but it's more of a question. I know we've got a meeting, but because it's the week before, I'd like to start getting some stuff together for our Employee Appreciation Day. So I have 2 grills that can be used for this. Probably can grill 8 to 10 burgers at a time on both of them together. And I can grill, that's fine. I was thinking I would go and buy burgers, brats, buns, and hot dog buns, and condiments, maybe a couple bags of chips. And then the next question is that I was wondering is, do we want, as the commission, to provide alcohol? Or is it alcohol free, or is it the employees bringing their own alcohol?
I
BYOB.
think it'd be BYOB. We could provide, what, pop, lemonade, something like that.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask, but yeah, I mean, I figured that we could do that, and I can pick all that stuff up.
What day is this again?
23rd.
You got it, 2 grills enough? Do you need another one?
Maybe.
I can bring
It'd
mine.
probably help to have
Okay.
3.
Yeah, I'll bring mine, and I got one of those big flat top ones. So
Oh,
I should be able
that'd
to-
be
you can do
really
hot
good,
dogs.
because these are
Because I can
just
do-
circular ones.
So I can do probably
6.
20 burgers at a time.
Perfect. Well, then we'd be able to do 40, and that'd be plenty.
I don't,
Okay, thank you. I got my big.
like where,
Yeah, but I know. But then one of
because the
those-
park is,
When I have
that
two of
stuff
them, I
is
have one
booked
of
out
those,
for
so I
year.
grab that.
in advance.
Was it Ruger or what?
Well,
Not room out there?
don't you do it at Ruger? Under
Yeah,
that,
what time are we looking at again?
under that high top? Well, it's noon, we agreed to give the rest of the day off.
Yeah.
Under that canopy.
Lunch is
You
at
know what I'm talking about, right? From Ruger?
Well, Roosevelt's ought to be all right at noon, right?
Yeah, should be.
We're talking.
Or
locations.
Roosevelt, I mean, either one, it doesn't matter as long as we can
Mhm.
have a spot.
But the building there, those,
Oh,
like all the buildings.
I don't know that we'll need a building per se unless it's raining. I guess that's always a
Yeah,
possibility.
does anybody have the big canopy at Roosevelt, what, the big?
It was, like, all that stuff was booked a year in advance.
Interesting.
You was there today, like at noon?
Like, the day that we want, like,
Oh,
So we don't have a location, is what you're telling me?
well, okay, so here's,
You guys can all come to my house.
Peterson Arena, the event center, is that booked?
it's a variety, I
Yeah, it'd be a good location.
don't know.
yeah, if we can get it. Otherwise, I mean, if Peterson Arena's not available, Memorial Building, is that booked? We could use that as our rain site, if it rains, if it would rain that day, and then otherwise, I mean, we don't really need a building in any of these parks, right? We could just all show up and
Well, yeah, it's
may not be anywhere to sit.
Picnic tables and stuff? or-
Yeah. I don't think that would be too bad. It's a nice day.
Or could you just use the overhang?
Right here?
No,
That open shelter
there you go,
at Roosevelt.
Roosevelt.
That's
Well,
what
down
I'm
there at
saying.
South End.
That big one, that's what I was asking. We
Yeah.
could, that's got all kinds of picnic tables and stuff.
Yeah.
If we could utilize that, that'd be a good location for it.
Where they do the farmer's market deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right across from the ball field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was kinda thinking. We don't need the actual building. If you just got a big area with picnic tables and
Yeah.
set the grills up next to it, and there's all kinds of grass next to it, and the volleyball courts, just kinda have at it.
Who you call, park board?
I'll check.
Yeah.
Check.
Somebody else never gave half or whatever, I don't know.
And I think, employee families also welcome,
Of course.
just so that everybody knows that it's on the record.
Yeah, well, we're, excuse me, we're right next to the, playground equipment. If you use that big facility there, and you got, like I said, volleyball, you got, what's the football, softball, dance, crossbow, got all kinds of stuff in there too.
Yeah, so I'll start getting together all of the food and drinks and everything, and I'll just sort of let you know where we're at.
You wanna be, I can take charge of like drinks or something, if you wanna handle food, I'll handle beverages or something.
That's fine.
Take some of it off the plate then.
Grandkids are welcome.
Of course,
Absolutely.
everybody.
I will be here.
Condom.
We should probably send out some type of a,
I'll put,
not a survey monkey necessarily, but some type of a concept, just so we have an idea of how many people we're gonna have there. So we know why
Yeah, that's true.
not enough burgers or too many burgers or whatever, just so we have at least a thought process.
I'll just put on there something so that we get an idea of head count.
Yeah, just so, because we know how many employees we have, but if for people that bring kids, or, so we know, at least we got food needs covered.
You might take the employees and take them.
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
a fair amount.
Yeah, but again, then if the
I'm just saying,
employees
but we
came
need
by
to know.
themselves and you multiply by 4, it'd be like, holy cow, we don't.
That's why I'm.
Then Lucas is going home with a lot of
Yeah.
hamburgers.
We've eaten burgers for 8 months.
That's okay, I'll buy it back, I like hamburgers.
I've got a few packages of spares.
There you go.
Okay. So,
So Roosevelt Park under the big canopy,
If we,
if possible,
if possible, if not, I don't know, can I leave that to you, Candy, or would you like me to come in and,
I won't be here, but I'll figure out a place,
that's all that's what I need.
sorry.
So figure out a place and let me
you
know.
have the food, all the
Food.
food beverages.
State baseball takes priority.
Baseball.
Yeah.
Is it the 23rd?
Actually leave the 21st.
You sure?
I'm Babe Ruth. No, we're different.
Okay.
Jeez, they might get in trouble.
yeah,
No, I'm Babe Ruth
It was a
baseball.
week before.
Yeah, you're playing Babe Ruth.
No, I'll find a place.
And you play Coward.
Yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Chairman?
I don't think so.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.